Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? So, I know I said this to a couple people that I was going to kind of recap last week's US Indices plays, specifically NASDAQ 100, S&P 500, and the Dow 30. So let's dive into it, and I'm going to recap exactly how I played it, what I was looking for, and ultimately what my overall targets are. I don't think I've actually. I know if you follow me on TradingView, you come over if you go to my ideas, and you scroll down to what is this October 30th, right? Actually, it was October 25th, and sorry, I've got this cough. I'm going to try and mute myself when I do cough, but I've just got my allergies are kicking up. If you take a look at October 25th, I did post this in my ideas that we had a massive distribution in the making. Yeah, essentially we did see that, right? We did see that. And, fast forward to what I wanted to see. I wanted to see a break of structure, come back, mitigate the UTAD in our Wyckoff theory distribution, and play it down into, I'm looking at like the 27,000 range as my target off of this move. And if we load the bars where we're at, I mean, we could see that the UTAD never did break. We never had that break of structure to test the UTAD, but all we have to do is just move over our schematic. And in reality, I mean, we do have a distribution. Price did come in. We can see that measuring at our UTAD, we did come and potentially retest at least 50% of that, making a new low and coming back perfectly into the 80%. And if you guys know how I trade, this bad boy should be right on your radar. Ideally, what I'd be expecting is a new low and potentially, whatever we do here, right? This already for me is starting to shape itself as a redistribution, and essentially it will potentially be my slingshot candle if we do in fact make a new leg low. All right, so U30 is going to be a great place to start. We'll take it from here, and obviously on a higher time frame, what I'll be looking for is for price to come back and mitigate these areas. Let me grab my. Okay, so I've got my annotate tool here. We'll move it off screen, and when we take a look at what my anticipation is, we can see that what we have is, we have our distribution. We do confirm it with this break right here. Price essentially makes this leg. We make a new low by redistributing, making this leg. And when we're in this leg right here, okay, what does price do? Price comes into that 80%. And how does it do it? By creating another distribution. So, as it is right now, price coming back up into this area, right, is something I'm looking for to short this market. The other thing I'll be looking for is, do we instead redistribute? And out of that redistribution, what we now have is something along the lines of this. Bear with me. There we go. Something along the lines of this becoming our slingshot, this becoming our extreme. When we make this low, can now price come back into our points of interest for us to go higher, for us to ultimately hit that target of 27,000, which I'm looking at. All right. And this is really something I'm going to be diving into. I'm going to see if, in fact, I can work some entries into that. Going into last week, right? Let's get down onto some lower time frames, right? And going into last week, we can see that price redistributed, and I am holding some really good sells on this. I'll tell you this. We can see that price redistributed, and from this area here, we know that this is our leg, right? So what I was really anticipating was that we were going to kind of get up into this area, make this an accumulation that gets us up to here. Right, that's what I wanted to see. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. Right, it doesn't say we're not going to get it yet, because if you know how I trade, you know that the distribution, right, is what maintains our leg, right, and the redistro is just the continuation move, does not hold structure, right. Does not hold structure. So what I'll be anticipating is, we have to see what happens when price makes this low down here, right? And this is what I'll be waiting for when we break this low, because when we break this low, right, coming back up to like that 4-hour, when we break that low right down in here, then yes, this price action right here is going to be our new leg, because we will go like this to this. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. But now kind of going through my thought process from last week, where I was really kind of targeting was we could see that price off of, and I'm going to focus in right here. All right. We could see that all of last week, we were just expecting the shorts. We did have an accumulation that really didn't do anything. And at this point here, when we break through our ice and make a new low, right, this price action confirms this entire thing as a lower time frame redistro. Okay. So immediately, just at the smallest form of order flow, right, I am looking for price to ultimately come back into my distribution, right? When we saw price in this area here last week, Wednesday, Thursday, the anticipation was to get price up into the area where I wanted to short from. And that gave us an opportunity to get into a really clean buy position, ultimately looking for our shorts. So what we ended up doing was, you can see that price after breaking this, and this is kind of what I was looking for, right? So we know that when price did this in this sense, we had a boof, right? A break of order flow. And when price made a new high, came back and accumulated here, right? Ultimately, what we did was we made a new leg, right? All it is just order flow for me. So what I wanted to see was, I wanted to see one of two things, right? And you'll see the video, my thought process. I'll drop the little snippets of my video from Thursday morning, my Zoom call that I did with my team. You'll see what I was looking at, right? I wanted to see on indices, the most important thing when we were essentially up here was, I wanted to see us sweep Asian liquidity. I wanted to see us trade into this accumulation. And then ultimately, I wanted to catch a lower time frame schematic. And if I could catch that lower time frame schematic, my first target was to make a new high and then get up into this area here where I wanted to short the market. All right. So kind of walking you through where I was playing from. And again, I personally only trade indices during New York equities session, which for me, I live on the East Coast of the United States. It is 9:30 in the morning when stock market opens until 4 p.m. Eastern, right? That is the really the only time I trade it. Now, I will get in a pre-market if I can, if it makes sense. But typically, I wait for that 9:30 open. I look to see what price is doing and where it's doing it. And then I'm typically out of the market by power hour, which for me is 3 p.m. Eastern. That last hour of trading, I call it the power hour because all bets are off. The gloves come off. No rules. We just get tremendous volatility. And I honestly, at that point, I'm not looking for an entry that late in the day. Bigger picture, like, what do I want to sell out of? I want to sell out of this move. Oh, I want to sell out of this move, right? I'm still bearish on this. We got the shakeout on both sides. Both sides got taken out. So I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see I'm actually going to move this here. I'm just going to box it out. And, obviously if we get any kind of distributions up in this area, that's what I'm going to look for. And of course, if we make a new low, right, like if we end up doing that, are we just redistributed, and I'll be looking for that continuation sell. I'm really not interested in a buy right now. I think for me to get involved in a buy, I really want to see this break right here. That's ideally what I want to see. Could this be an accumulation? 100%. But at this point, I'm really favoring shorts on it. And all of them are in confluence with that, right? You could kind of see. So let's get into the lower time frame, because I think the lower time frame really dominated indices coming into that equities open. All right. And again, nothing to say you can't trade it during off hours, right? I can just tell you that based on my trading plan, right? My trading plan says I'm only trading it during a specific time, all right? So we can see that price actually comes in here very, very cleanly. And if I go down to a 5-second, and yes, it's a 5-second schematic. If I go down to the 5-second, what you're going to see is you're going to see a very, very nice entry, right? You're going to see that price came in and gave a accumulation right in here, all right? And then manipulated the market with a spring, okay? So if I was going to mark this thing out, how I would end up doing it is my trading range. Okay. Again, you need a minimum of 3 drives, right? So you would need wherever you want to label it from, you could start from here to your climax, to your rally. You can make that a secondary test. You can make that a secondary test. You can make that a secondary test. And then you can make this a secondary test. And then we know that this is where they sold and this is where they bought, sweeping liquidity, meaning this is our spring. So if that's our spring, then we know that this is our last secondary test, meaning that was our secondary test in phase B. And then what do we have? We have that break. We have that break. So all I care about is life within this box. You guys know how I trade. I like my 50s and my 80s. And roughly this was a 16 point, right? Or 160 pip, right? However you want to call it. I use indices in points. It was a 16-point stop loss off my 80%. And really the reason I did it was because if you can't see on the 1 second, but there's a type 4 accumulation that goes on in there. And that's ultimately what I wanted to play out of. All right. So this was a really clean entry. Again, a very, very tight stop. And something that I get asked a lot is, man, trading on that 5-second, I just don't know about it. Well, listen. This entry, and I don't care about how long it took, but realistically, it took from the time you got your first climax, your change of character, it took 14 minutes and 55 seconds for you to get confirmation to set a limit order off of this. For me, that's plenty of time, right? Plenty of time. And by the time it did confirm the break and the time it came down into my entry, took 6 minutes and 25 seconds. And sure, I mean, obviously as a newer trader, this may be something very quick. For those of you guys that have been trading for a while, that are in my group, that are in the public Discord, you guys know that this is pretty simple to catch. So on U30, this was a very easy catch immediately as we get this reaction, right? So as soon as price taps me in, boom, and then we get that initial reaction, I ended up reducing my risk, bringing my stop loss to the bottom of that wick. As soon as we broke this high, that's it. I'm ready to go. Now, I was potentially looking at a re-entry because we have a distribution with an accumulation and a creek with a new high. If price came back, I'd be looking for my test of my reaccumulation, which would also be my last point of support after creating my test of my spring, which was this, right? A couple other things I was looking at, right? We had a little bit of divergence on a larger time frame, not on the 5-second, right? But on a higher time frame, you definitely had divergence present, okay? And you could see it here, right? You can see how price coming in, making that low, but on the oscillator, making the high, right? So we had a little bit of divergence giving us that momentum shift was coming, all right? How I personally managed this trade was as soon as price broke, remember what the target was, right? As soon as price broke this high, I went ahead and secured some partials, okay? I went ahead and secured some partials, and you'll see that this right here was a 1 to 29. Now, obviously, a little less because I'm not including spread into my trading view chart, right? Everybody has different spreads depending on your broker, all right? But it gave a 1 to 29 on a raw zero spread account. And that's where I ended up securing a bulk of my partials. But keep in mind, where was I targeting? I was targeting this area right up here, right? This is the distribution area right here where I wanted to catch my sell. More importantly, if we know that this is the high, and if I measure out, you know, I like my 80s, right? I'm looking at targeting anywhere close to that almost 34,000 mark, right? That's where I wanted to see a distribution up here, okay? And again, you know, I'll let you guys kind of get an idea of my walkthrough from the video from Thursday morning that we did. And, okay, you know, as soon as price now trades into that area, and unfortunately it did give me a little bit of cause for concern, because I was looking for that short, right? And we'll talk about this. I was looking for the short, but it's about the time that it comes into the short. So I was, and I'm just going to move this up here so you can see that I ended up closing out some more partials right in here. And this was about a 629 point take profit, or 6,290 pips, if you want to call it like that. I just say 629. This gave me approximately a 1 to 40. 1 to 40 R to R, really clean entry. And how I was looking at this distribution here was very simple, right? And if we kind of just make this a little larger, it just sucked, honestly. You know, really clean distro at first. You know, here is my trading range. There is my climax, my test, another test, potentially an up thrust, and then we get a UTAD, right? We get a UTAD. Now, what I wanted to see, right? I wanted to see us break, right? I wanted to see the break, and now we did get the break. Boom, we got the break. So what I ended up doing was I took an entry out of my UTAD, okay? Took an entry out of my UTAD. Price ends up coming. Boom. Price ends up coming right into my 80%, all right? So this is something that I did play. I did get into this trade actually on the first bounce. So it's about another 16-point stop loss. And you can see at one point I'm in profit about a 1 to 3. Okay. Now, unfortunately, this happens at 2:10 p.m. Eastern time. And my trading plan says that I cannot take trades into power hours. So I was already on that tail end of my trading day. So what I ended up doing was just going to break even. And ultimately, you can see price ends up taking me out here. All right. We do trade a little higher into the end of the day. And then ultimately, what do? We confirm another distribution right here and just sell off. So I was able to get the 1 to 40 R to R on the buy. And unfortunately, because of the timing, I just was unable to catch a re-entry. I was looking, so you can see that we have a distribution right here. And ultimately, we can see that price ends up redistributing right here, okay? And I really wanted to catch there it is, redistro. I really wanted to catch a re-entry off of that. But again, way too late in the day, and I really don't trade this late. I don't want to be involved in a trade this late. But I would say this, just keep this in your trading journal. Keep it on your screenshots if you take them, because that does become relevant, right? For me, at least, it becomes relevant that high when what? When we break this low right here. Because when we break this low, we have now confirmed a larger redistribution, with that being what maintains my leg in the order flow. Okay. So unfortunately, it is what it is. Friday, I was looking for a re-entry. I was actually trying to catch a redistribution from Friday's price action. And if we kind of just go to Friday's price action, you'll kind of see right at market open. You know, for me, there was no reason to look for a buy at this point because of where we are, right? You got to ask yourself, where are you? We ended up, you know, taking the buy. We ended up taking the buy up to the area we wanted to sell. And then what do we see? We saw evidence of sellers coming in the market. So why am I trying to buy price from here, right? I'm not. Instead, what I would do is I would hedge in from down here if we come there, or if we break this low and ultimately break this low, I know we have a new order flow leg. All right. So what I ended up doing was just sitting on my hands until New York open. And you can kind of see what's going on here, right? We do have an accumulation, and that accumulation then presents itself with a shakeout, right? How do I know it's a shakeout? Because it took everybody that was trying to sell out of here, plus it took out that Frankfurt price action, right? And what I wanted to see was you can ultimately see how Frankfurt came in, gave that beautiful distribution, right? This is that distribution that I'm looking at right there. You know, if you guys follow me, you know that that gray box is extremely important to me. And if we see this as a distribution, which you should, right? If you see this as a distribution, and we mark out that manipulation that sweeps Asian liquidity, you can see that we do come into a premium pricing for sells. You can see that we redistribute here, and if we take that measurement and figure out the entire redistribution, you know that we come into 50% of that. Actually, I already had it marked out. My bad. Bam. There we go. You can see that we come into 50% of that. So now that we have confirmed a redistribution, right? And for me, the confirmation was this break right here. Once we confirm that, now I'm just going to measure out my entire manipulation, right? And I was looking for a re-entry in this box right here. So, you know, I started to get some signs of, you know, potentially we're going to get it. I could see the accumulation. I want this to come up. I'd be looking for now price to give me that the distribution or the shakeout in what? In another redistro. And that would be my entry. And ultimately on this low, catch a stacked re-entry to go lower. Unfortunately, you know, Friday had a different objective because we just sell off, right? We just sell off. And it's unfortunate that we never come back. However, now where we're sitting at, right, what does that really represent? And again, you know, looking at it from just a larger time frame, right? I know my chart's got a lot of mess on it. Mondays are when I really do my chart work now. But if we just mark out what we see, right, we can tell that price has broken through our ice. We have made a new low. So in essence, we have confirmed another redistribution, right? And for me, my leg is being maintained now from here to this low. All right. And my first point of interest that I'm going to be really focusing on is going to be in here, right? This will be my very first point of interest that I will look to see if price gives me any kind of schematic to short the market from. All right. If it doesn't, I'm going to go back to what I was looking at Friday, which is going to be this manipulation or that Frankfurt price action that created that distribution. All right. That's ultimately what I'm going to be looking at. U30 gave a really good opportunity on Thursday for the buy up, gave an opportunity for the short, just didn't fall into my trading plan. So hopefully this kind of lends some insight into my thought process. And of course, again, you know, just because I'm bearish on this doesn't mean I'm not going to take a hedge buy. All right. And where we're sitting at right now, again, we have a distribution right here. And potentially a redistribution already confirmed. So we could see the market give that entry to short. We could see price make a new low. We could also see the now price build some reason to come back into that slingshot area or into this manipulation that is untested. And then from there, that's where I'll be looking for my next big long that potentially is going to yield, you know, I mean, just looking at the math, about 4,000 points. All right. And we'll see how that goes. So hopefully this, you know, kind of gives you an insight on how I traded it. Again, I'll let you watch the video. We'll load it up here in a second. And we'll go through SPX as well real quick. But anyway, same thing. I'll be looking, I'm just going to box this out. I'll be looking for shorts. If we come up into the area where I'm going to look for the shorts, which is going to be in this area right here. And I'm also, I mean, realistically, you could see the accumulation that happened yesterday out of this, and we made a new high. So I will pay attention. I'm just going to box this out, and I'm going to see, you know, what we do when we sweep these Asian lows, if we do, and I'll see what happens if we go higher. So we got Asian sweep. What's got NASDAQ here? Let's see. You got it, bro. You got it, man. Have a great one. So NASDAQ. Yeah, so for indices, I'm really not going to do anything until we either make that new high and reaccumulate, or we come down and take out Asian lows. So that's kind of going to be my play for the day on indices. It's just going to be sit back and wait for us, potentially get into the next hour and see what she does. Yeah, I mean, you got U30s pushing lower. I'm pretty sure she's going to sweep these Asian lows. If today's going to go higher, right? If today's going to go higher, we're gonna sweep these, and we're gonna come into that right there. So I will look to play something like that if we get down there. Yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to immediately reaccumulate today. So same thing. You've got SPX over here, and you've got just a tremendously clean accumulation that occurs there. So, like something like this. Yeah, so I do like where it's at from here out of this accumulation. So if AU does redistro now, play the redistro, and if that fails, play. Yep, exactly, bro. I'll leave NASDAQ. If you want to backtest NASDAQ gave a really, really great opportunity. I think NASDAQ is actually pretty clean in regards to US30. But on SPX, right, we had the same concept, right? We had the same exact concept. We were looking for price. There we go. We were looking for price to ultimately give us a selling opportunity. And if you kind of measure, I'm just kind of my drawings for a second. Kind of measure where we're at, right? We are in active distribution, right? We have broken the low. We have now potentially redistributed. And what I'm really waiting for is that low right there, right? Because if we do end up doing a new low, now we have a new order flow leg, which is that, and ultimately this will be maintaining my lower time frame structure, right? I'm also going to be targeting ideally the same area, right? If you look at my, I guess it's maybe on another chart, but if you look, this is the very first area I'm going to be targeting. Right around like that 3,500 area is where I'm going. But most importantly, if we do get below here, this is my target, right? The COVID drop is my target, and it might be on my 4-hour chart actually. Let me just see. Yeah, TradingView's really been laggy lately. Okay, so you can see I've got this marked out. This 26,662. 26,662 is my target. I want to come back into this, potentially even the accumulation that happened down here, which looks like it lines up pretty nicely with the 80% of that leg, right? If we measure the entire COVID push, actually, here, we'll just take it from here. Yeah, you can see how clean it comes right into that accumulation. So that's something I'll be looking for. Again, how we ended up trading this, same concept, right? We wanted to catch the short from this distribution area right here. Ideally, my area was about the 42.88, which was the 80%. I wanted to see price give a distribution. All right. Same thing, the buy up on Thursday, very clean. We were looking, again, we were looking for that momentum, right? You can see price ends up reaccumulating here, making a high, shaking out, right? Giving that false break. And really, I wasn't looking for the short yet because I wanted to get up to this area here. Once we made that high, that for me confirmed that this was our shakeout in another reaccumulation. We see price accumulate at the end of the day and then make a new high, right? So immediately this green box is where I'm looking. Here's the 50%, what you can see that we tap into. All right. And then from there, it was just a simple, all right, let's get down lower time frame and let's see, does price give us another opportunity for an accumulation? And it does, right? Happens during New York session. And when we get into this price action, there she is. When we get into that price action, this is what I was ultimately looking at, right? It met all of my confirmations, right? What I wanted to see, where I wanted to get into this market. And, realistically, you can see that we have our trading range. We have our climax to our rally, defines our trading range. We have a secondary test, right? Gives us a nice push. We have another secondary test that ends up, giving us that high. This is why I don't trade type 2s. And then ultimately what happens, this is where they sell. This is where they buy. So we know that this is our spring. If that's our spring, we know that the last secondary test is our phase B secondary test. We now get our true break of structure within our schematic. By measuring this entire move, I took it off the 80, looked into a little more as far as like some imbalance on lower time frame, really wanted to get a tight entry. And on SPX, right, this was a 2.3, right, 23 pip or a 2.3 point stop loss. All right. Again, immediately got a really nice reaction coming out of the gate, reduced my risk. And how I personally manage this one, same thing like U30. My goal was to get up to this high right here. I did end up partialing out as we got up there, right? And this was a really clean price action play, right? This was again on U30. Bear with me here 1 second. Let me pause it. There we go. There we go. So you can see that when we broke this high, which is where I partialed out, this was at a 1 to 31. And again, when we came into the end of the day, I ended up taking that 1 to 43. All right. Playing that 1 to 43, SPX gave the same exact price action. We see the distribution forming here at the end of the day. Unfortunately, it was just way too late in the day for me to be involved in this. And, it is what it is, but we do have, right? We do have a distribution now that has left itself unmitigated, right? Right here. So, measuring out that entire UTAD, what I'm going to be looking for is price to come into the 50 or the 80 of it, which is this red line. This is the area I want to catch my next play. And when we look at where SPX currently sits, right? Same thing, I was looking to play this redistribution right here. I really wasn't looking for a buy out of this because of where we were at and because of the reaction we saw supply coming into the market. At this point, what I'm looking for is, okay, do we, what gets me into this market? Do we, play off of the new redistribution by making this low and breaking through our ice, right? We now have another redistribution. This now is what is maintaining that leg. So for me, the very first place that I would even pay attention to anything is in that redistribution. I don't have high hopes for it. I really want to see us come back into this. So that 42.54 area is really what I'm going to be focusing on this week. And if we do trade above it, then I will have my eyes set on that 43 area, right? 4,300 area to ultimately catch another play to then go lower with it. Okay. So SPX, really clean play. I like where it's. I like how it's been trading. We've been really shorting these indices for quite a while, just playing the hedge move on the buys, and you can see bigger picture, right? You can see bigger picture, just like U30. What do I envision, right? What or how I'm going to trade this? Okay, is where we're at. I've got this alert down here on this low because once we break that low, this now becomes my structure point. This here becomes my slingshot. Okay, so I'll be looking after that break for price to return into this area or into this area for me now to catch another play long term to make a new low, right? These lows down here, I'm not really holding long term. You know, I'll definitely partial out and leave a runner. And again, where am I targeting? I'm targeting that low down here, right? I want to get down into these areas around the 30. Hold on, there she goes. I want to get into these areas around the 33.94 area. Okay. So hopefully this gives you a little breakdown of my thought process on SPX 500, on US30. I definitely welcome you to give NASDAQ a look. Very similar price action, right? They're comparable assets. I definitely would encourage you, especially if you trade the way I do, give a look, right? I mean, you can already kind of see, I won't go lower time frame, gave a really interesting opportunity out of price action here on Thursday afternoon. And what I'm anticipating to go forward is obviously I'm just going to be waiting for price at this point to make that new low. And we make that new low, we know that we have that new leg. So definitely give it a look. See if you can find Thursday morning's New York session entry. It gave, again, another 1 to 30 to 1 to 40 return on investment. And figure out what's next, right? What's your next play? How do you get into this market? Are you looking for those buys or shorts? Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not your financial advisor, but I will tell you what I am doing. I will be looking for the shorts. As soon as we break this area down here, I will be looking for the shorts out of my two key areas, which are my slingshot candles or slingshot areas, which are 99% of the time a redistribution. And I'll be looking from the leg high or the leg structure high, which most likely will be involving a distribution at that top. So again, I'm hoping that you get some value out of this. I'll try to do this more often as I get some time. And I hope you do enjoy the thought process that we went through Thursday morning on looking at indices and how we wanted to play it, and then what we were looking for going forward. So thanks for watching. If you like the channel, definitely subscribe to it. Turn the notifications on. You'll kind of get the notification when I do post something. And if you like this video, like it. Give me a like. Let me know. Drop some comments down below if you have any questions. I'll also include the public Discord group where a lot of guys, I give huge shout outs to the strides that you guys are making, guys and gals. Definitely join the group. It's a really great place to really collaborate and get a thorough understanding. And as always, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, I do my my weekly Zoom, Tuesday market analysis. If you haven't been on it, give it a shot. If you like it, come back. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next video.